Hi kids, welcome to Building on the Rock. As you may know, last week David defeated Goliath in a monumental bout. And with this, he and Israel's army routed the Philistines and saved Israel. But with this success came more things than simply a way to show God's glory. Saul decided to keep David with him at all times. As you know, he was already the harp player for King Saul. And with this, things kept seeming to go David's way, in spite of Saul's regret. We will read verses 5 through 16 of 1 Samuel chapter 18. David did everything Saul sent him to do. He did it so well that Saul gave him a high rank in the army that pleased Saul's whole army, including his officers. After David had killed Goliath, the men of Israel returned home. The women came out of all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul. They danced and sang joyful songs. They played lutes and tambourines. As they danced, they sang, "Saul has killed thousands of men. David has killed tens of thousands." That song made Saul very angry. It really upset him. He said to himself, "They are saying David has killed tens of thousands of men, but they are saying I've killed only thousands. The only thing left for him to get is the kingdom itself." From that time on, Saul became very jealous of David, so he watched him closely. The next day, an evil spirit that was sent by God came on Saul with power. Saul began to prophesy in his house. At that same time, David began to play the harp, just as he usually did. Saul was holding a spear. He threw it at David. As he did, he said to himself, "I'll pin David to the wall." But David got away from him twice. The Lord had left Saul and was with David, so Saul was afraid of David. He sent David away. He put him in command of 1,000 men. David led the troops in battle. In everything he did, he was very successful. That's because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful David was, he became afraid of him. But all the troops of Israel and Judah loved David. That's because he led them in battle. As you can see, David in this chapter, as he committed himself to God, was very successful, while Saul, because of his evil spirits that he was condemned to face because of his ignorance, was against God and kept trying to kill David. But because David kept his faith in God, he was always successful. This can be most easily portrayed by the tambourines and songs that were sang. People loved David because they recognized how good and great he was to the people and to God. He was celebrated not because of his riches, for he had none, or even because of how many people he killed, because statistically it was much more likely that Saul actually killed more people. It's just that David had more of an impact because of what he believed in. He believed in God, not his own strength, not his own position. And because of this, he got many powerful allies in his friend and Saul's son, Jonathan, and in Saul's daughter and David's soon-to-be wife, Michal. He was appreciated because of his kindness, his gentleness, and his reservation to glorify himself. All attributes worthy of a king, and all of which he portrayed constantly. He did not simply be generous one day and gain glory for the rest of his life. He did not simply do good one moment and do bad the next and consider it even. He was good for most of his life, though he did have some falls, and we will get there. He was not simply a quid pro quo. He did good all of the time, and he got good given to him some of the time. But no matter whether he was given good or bad, either the bad by Saul, or sometimes even the good by Saul, or bad by the people, or good by the people, he was faithful to God regardless. And this is the kind of faith we need in our leaders and in ourselves. If we simply expect God to do good for us because we're with God, then we miss what he's already done good for us in the first place by being with us at all. If we expect everything to go our way all of the time, then we miss the glory of seeing what God's plans are in the bad times. Because God always has a plan. And He's always seeing it through, even as people try and destroy it. Even as people try and stop God from whatever He's doing, or whatever He's promised. Our faith must be absolute, or it isn't faith at all. And when we have that absolute faith, people notice, much like they noticed with David. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll show you how to make this cool musical note and this tambourine. And then I'll see you next week. Today we're going to be building a tambourine and a music note, because you know tambourines make music. These are all in celebration of the good giant slayer, King David. So, to begin, we're going to start with a gray 2x6 and 2 yellow 2x3s on opposing sides. As you can see, this is sort of like the ching-chings that are in a tambourine. But to connect them, we're going to attach these gray 2x2s. Light gray. Now, of course, you notice that they're kind of connected, but they're also definitely not connected. So to fix that, we're going to attach a top to it with these 2x4s in dark gray, connecting like so. As you can see, there's a stud on the side and studs here. And then we're going to finish that connection with these light gray 1x2s, which are connected on the inner hole. Now, if you've ever used a tambourine, you may know that there's a cloth covering on the top that you tap to make the tambourine do the noise. And so to replicate that, we're going to attach these beige 2x4 plates. So you can, you know, it doesn't really make a joyful noise, but we can make it make music notes. To make our music notes, you're going to start with a black 2x2 and attach on top of it a black 2x4. Then you're going to attach a black 2x2 sloped on one side and another black 2x2 on the other. This makes up the bass part of the note, where it's shown where it is on the board. But if you've ever seen a musical note on a music sheet, it's got a nice tail on top. And to replicate that, we're going to attach these 2 2x2 round black pieces with these ridges on the sides, and put them on top of the black 2x2 without the slope. And finally, attach a black 2x2 plate on top and put a black 2x2 slope sloping towards the other slope. So now you've got yourself a little music note and a tambourine that makes the music notes. And if you have more black pieces, you could probably make a double note, which would just be attaching a black piece on top of this note, on top of where the slope is, to another section that attaches where the slope is. But sadly, we don't have that amount of pieces. Regardless, I hope you enjoy playing with your Lego tambourine and make yourself some Lego musical compositions. I think you can do it. I hope you have a wonderful day today, and make a joyful noise for the Lord.